Hello world, welcome to the stream. It's been a very long while, several months, and I apologize for that, but I've got a nice Sunday morning, quiet house, and a couple of hours to spare, so hopefully we can get some solid work done in the stream. Windows has tried to thwart me. This morning I went to fire up the game and just make sure everything was working, and was greeted with a white screen. I think that perhaps with the latest Windows 10 update or some combination of changes has caused my SDL library to go on the fritz. I spent a couple minutes trying to figure it out, but I'm going to take a deeper dive into that later. So I switched over to the Mac for development today, which I don't think I've done on stream before. So that should be interesting, and also show you that it does indeed build and run on Mac. So let me just fire up the game right now, and we can kind of remember where we were. I know that I am going to be very rusty today, but let's try and shake the rust off, and we can proceed and get some progress made. Because actually we're... Hey, Tim! Hey, what's up? What's going on, Den Stark? What's up, Tim? Welcome to the stream. So let's fire this bad boy up and see where we are. Let's make sure that... Let's touch the debugger, make sure that everything looks okay. Alright, so here's our launch screen. We've got our two options. We've got our new game and our Hall of Fame. Just jump into the Hall of Fame real quick. You can see we've got our top 10 scores, the level that they got to in the dungeon, and then the number of gems that they collected. If you'll remember, we added gems as kind of the way to keep score in this game. So there's going to be two kind of ways to finish the game. We're going to max out the number of dungeon levels at 20. So hopefully today we will start building in our win game condition. So once the user gets down to level 20 and gets the gems on that level, maybe we'll add some crazy artifact that grabbing that will actually trigger the game win scenario. So we will do that. So getting to level 20 and getting that particular item, getting your hands on that item, will trigger the win game. But then we added gems as kind of a scoreboard type thing. So each gem, or each dungeon level, we added 5 randomly placed gems. And so collecting all of the gems on a given level is, kind of forces you to explore the level, to try and maximize your score. And then that's just shown on the leaderboard at the end. So let's just jump into the game real quick. So today, I think we're going to be working on game balance. So as you can see, I'm going to get schooled by this kobold. And we've got an exception in our game, or our death sequence. Let's see if we can... Let's go. So running this game on the Mac, we may uncover different behaviors. There are different, it's using a different compiler. We're not using the Visual C++ compiler. We are using the Mac compiler, which is we use the LLVM and CLang compiler. So we'll be using LLDB and it's the virtual machine targets, and so it's a CLang compiler, which actually gives you, I've found it gives you more strict warnings. It forces you to code a little bit tighter C, so maybe we'll clean up some of those warnings as well. But let's figure out just what's going on here. Paris looks okay. So it looks like we're actually trying to insert into our leaderboard. Is that what we're doing? Looks like it. If the current game score is higher than this entry's score, it made the leaderboard. So this was actually on my bug list. Because we get an occasional crash when trying to add to the leaderboard. Let's see if we can figure that out. Adding entity. Player name looks okay. So we're setting our key value pairs. KV. It's not let's see what's this stuff. So it's almost like key value is add a breakpoint here so we can watch it the next time. Let's kill it. Start this bad. Okay, so we've got a snake to deal with here, and a gem. You can see a gem is. Sorry, we got the snake. Let's grab this gem, pick it up. A shield and an axe, that'll help, especially with this stupid bat. Yeah. We need to equip it, so we've got our inventory screen here. Hit space to equip or dequip. School the bat. So we're going to do some game balancing today. The player is pretty weak until they get their hands on some equipment, but once they get their hands on some equipment, they're kind of overpowered when it comes to battling the monsters. Pick up the shield and equip that. I'm glad you like it, Tim. Alright, so we got throw that on. I think that's pretty much it for the arm. So you can see over in the lower left-hand corner, we've got the stats. The attack is 5, but it's got a base value of 5, but it's got a modifier of 10, and then defense is 2 with a modifier of 4. I think we may be tweaking combat a bit today too as part of our balancing, because right now it's entirely too RNG based. And you can affect the RNG by building your stats, but I think I'd like to make it more deterministic, more able to be reasoned about. Just dispatch these guys. We don't need a sword. There's another gem, and there's our staircase downward, but let's just look around a little bit more. What's my primary inspiration? Yeah, I mean, Brogue and NetHack and all of the classics, the classic ASCII roguelikes. There's our 5th gem. So we've got all the gems left on this level, or all the gems that were on this level. All of those classic ASCII roguelikes. I just kind of wanted to build one, as an exercise for learning C. Also, that's been kind of an inspiration for the project. I wanted to build something not insignificant in C. All right, so we can descend. We can hit D to descend, and it generates a new level. We're on level 2. We've got a goblin here. So I think get a sense for the gameplay. As you descend into the dungeon, the monsters get more difficult. You start to meet some beefier monsters. But it's a pretty rudimentary game in terms of the gameplay. It's not the most exciting, but it's got all the foundations there that can be built upon. So if you wanted to throw in a magic system, you could do that. If you wanted to, I don't know, have ranged weapons or that sort of thing, we could build that in as well. Let's just head to level 3, and then we'll maybe de-equip some stuff and get ourselves killed so that we can perhaps trip that bug. Alright, let's take all that stuff on. Just run away from our bats that get 2 hits per turn. Okay, there we are. We died quickly to those bats. And we hit our breakpoint. So I want to see if the entity... Okay, so it is getting... No. Let's step into this and see what's up. So we get our lists mallocked. Size 0, we set our destroy function pointer, and then we set head and tail to null. So that looks like a nice clean structure. So when we get here, we have a nice clean structure. Okay, good. It made it through. So now we're going to allocate memory for the key value pair. And we're going to duplicate, let's see, the key. I wonder if the problem is, I wonder if this is a null terminated string. Should be. Let's see, where's our key? Player name. Oh, player name is our. Gotta make it global. HJKL. No, I did not go with the classic. I'm just using the arrow keys to move, but those keys are currently on map, so there's no reason that we couldn't map those keys to the movement controls as well. We actually have very few key bindings right now. Nice. Hey, Brogue uses the arrow keys, so if that's my inspiration. Actually, a lot of the roguelikes also use the number pad, but on some of my laptops I don't even have a number pad, so I could certainly support that, but key bindings are super easy to set up though. Let's see what we got. So we should be duplicating this, duplicating the memory, not just pointing to it, because then we get into memory issues. So our key looks okay, and our value looks okay. Everything looks good going in. Let's step into this function, list insert after. So our new element is going to point to the data that we sent in, which is our key value pair structure. Insert it at the head of the list. It's okay, list size. What is our list size right now? It's 0. Oh, maybe we don't crash. Let's see. Let's breakpoint and see if it's good. It's our breakpoints.
Tuning out of starlight, the innocent lifetime flickers and flashes under a canvas. No, nobody seems worth it. While the feeling sophisticated.
Well, that's interesting. How do you get to your break window here? Sweet. Oh, we don't have any breakpoints. Okay. So that time we actually didn't crash, perhaps because we were inserting into the head of the list instead of into the list. So I did have a bug on my to-do list to because there is a problem inserting into the Hall of Fame list. Perhaps we're not reading it in 100% correctly from the file that we kind of cache it out to, or perhaps it has to do with where we are trying to insert it into the list. Like right now this list is full. What should have happened is that this guy at the bottom should have been pushed off the bottom of the list, and our new hero, Benham Pikeorn, should have been right here at the top of the list. All these guys would have been shifted down. So you can see the last time that we were in here, by the way. I apologize for my long absence. I was working on some other projects, and then I was busy at TwitchCon, and then we were into the holidays, and so now glad to finally get a chance to get back into it. Okay, so let's... leader. Scoreboard. Here it is. Some stuff. So this is our game over routine, end game processing. We determine if the current game makes the Hall of Fame, and then the current game score is higher than this. Okay, so what we do is we've loaded our Hall of Fame into this HOV config variable. So that's a config file in memory. And then you're looping through each entity in that config file. And let me see if I can open up and show you what that looks like. So this is our Hall of Fame config. So it's pretty straightforward. It almost looks like an old Windows INI file. You've got kind of the section name in brackets, and then key value pairs separated by an equals sign. So it's super easy to parse and to write. It's trying to do some syntax highlighting here, which is amazing. That's why the strange colors.
Waiting for pain to interfere. It's quite complex, but what I know.
So what it does is it loops through all these. How many loops do we have? 2, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we've got the right number of records. It reads this stuff into memory, and then it will loop through it and compare the gem count to see if it's the game that just ended makes the high score, the Hall of Fame board. So if it did, we should create a new config entity, load it up with this game's data, and then insert it into our Hall of Fame. So we insert the entity before the entity we're comparing to. So maybe point in here. Let's see if that's. So that's in the case where. So then if it falls out of that, if it doesn't rank higher than the other games, but we have fewer than 10 entities, we just add it to the end. So that wasn't the case. And so this last case is what we definitely would have hit this if the list size is greater than 10. We cull the list. So we've already inserted in the proper location our current game into that list. And so if we then have 11 entries, we just cut off the last one and write our config file to disk. But let's see the size. It's greater than 10. We get list item at position 11 essentially. And so I should probably go through that logic. Do that. Let's make our lives a little bit easier. Let's quit. I'm going to add a key binding that will let us just immediately trigger the death sequence. So we'll put it at the topmost level. Let's call it, I think we use X. And we'll do, what's that called? Endgame? Is that, we call. Game over. Let's find out. Alright, so it looks like we can just call that game over. Let's save that. See what's... That should allow us to trigger a death at any moment. Should ease with the debug. Let's test that bad boy. X. Okay, so we jumped right into our game over routine, and we hit our breakpoint, and this is the breakpoint where the game score is higher than this entry score. It made the list. Well, we had a 0 score, so it's interesting that it's bad. But we do greater than or equal here. So if the game's score is higher than or equal to an entry score, we'll add it to the list. We'll give you. We give preference to the newer games, which, I mean, some people will probably get bent about, but they can change the code. Again, all of the code is available at the repository right above my head there. So if you want to grab that and follow along at home, you can. Go ahead and tweak the game to your heart's content. Add any systems that you'd like to see in a roguelike. So, okay, we're at our breakpoint, and let's just step over this and see. Insert after this is null. Insert after this looks like a valid. Now we should enter this as well, because we should have more than 10 entities. Right? Okay. Step into list item at. Just make sure we're doing the thing. Okay, so we got to index 10. Got a current element that looks reasonable. Jump out. It's not null. So we're going to move. So we've got size 11, you can see there. This element from the list. Okay, so element next, it's at the end of the list, so element next is going to be your null. So we're not going to go into this case because it's not at the, it's not in the middle of the list. It's going to be at the very end of the previous element. No. So next element, no. So we're at the end of the list. Previous element is not null. So we're setting. Yes. Hold on a second. The end of the list. Previous element is not. We're setting previous element next to That's not right. Is it? Oh, this we're removing an element. Yes. Okay. That is correct. Because we're so basically, whatever the element that is pointing to the element that we're trying to remove, we're going to clear out that pointer in the next field to null so that it's the new end of the list. And then we're going to adjust the list tail to point to that element as well, so it will be at the end of the list. Then I'm going to free the memory down here and change the list size. Okay, so that does look right. And we'll pop the data off. Because the free, it removes the element itself. Doesn't. So data should still be pointing to something. There it is. But we throw it away. We don't do anything. So if cell list. Write the file. So back in determine if the game makes the high score. Game. Did we not? Oh, you know what? We may. Oh, apparently I've outsmarted myself. I've already added a binding for that key. Aha. Why are we doing this again? Genius. Okay. Let's get rid of this, because I don't know, I even went through down the same neural pathway to map it to the same key. Alright. So at the end of the day, that didn't trip our error. So we'll need to look at that. I'll leave that breakpoint there, but let's see if we can do some other things as well. I've got my list here. Game balancing. So once the player gets geared up, they're very hard to kill. This is just some notes. I played a few games offline, just wrote some notes to myself for some ideas for balancing the game and making it a little bit harder for the player. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier. There's too much RNG in combat right now. So we can look at the combat routines and see where we might want to change those. Once the player gets looted up, they stay looted up, which is not really fair. So I have the idea to make equipment degrade over time and then get destroyed so that they have to find more equipment. And then just some things to try, make the monsters hit harder, make the player's weapons do less damage, make the armor less powerful. And then like changing the combat mechanics so that maybe we take the RNG out of it and things always hit, but I don't know. I don't know if we'll remove the RNG entirely, but we might severely constrain it. And then just some items where the monsters will get to take a turn if a player does different actions. Like if they do something on the inventory screen, like to equip or unequip an item, maybe the monsters get to move after that. And then also when they pick up something, that should trigger a monster move. So that's let's see if we can do our equipment degrade. Let's leave that a little bit. Let's just change some of our monster stats. Make them a little. So we've got this monsters config file. Again, this is in the same format as our other config files. So you've got this section head, and this is, in this case, the word in square brackets is the name of the type of entity that we're dealing with. So theoretically, you could mix all sorts of different entities in these config files. But the parser right now just kind of is more hard-coded than that. It wants to read a monster file and see monster records. We could update the parser in the future so that it's actually smart enough to figure out what entity it's reading in and then do the right thing. But that's not really worth the effort at this point. So here's our monsters. We've got different stats here for each one. The name, and then these viz underscore items are visibility properties. So this is the ASCII glyph that we use to render it, and then the color. And then MV is for movement speed, and frequency. So a goblin, each turn is going to move 1 square, and they only get 1 move per turn. And then H is health, so max hit points, and then they actually have a recovery rate here where each turn they'll recover 1 hit point. And I think we might do away with those across the board because the player also has that regen. Next grouping here is combat, COM, combat to hit, and this is where the RNG comes in. So Goblin has a 60% base chance to hit the player, and then attack and defense are kind of damage points. They figure into the damage. So if it hits, 60% chance to hit, has a chance of doing a maximum of 4 attack damage. And defense, it kind of absorbs damage. And then this last one is a appearance probability matrix, all in just one string here. So you look at these as pairs. So 320 means that up into and including level 3, there's a 20% chance that this monster is going to be every time we generate a monster, there's a 20% chance that it'll be a goblin. Once you get between, above level 3 and then up through level 5, there'll be a 10% chance that you'll see a goblin. And then after that, through level 20, there's a 5% chance. So we've defined all of these, not a ton of monsters here. I think we've got 7, it looks like. There's nothing stopping us from adding, the entire monster manual to the game. Well, I suppose they're limited by the number of ASCII characters, but we could certainly add many more monsters. But we just kind of got your base set here. See here on the bat, it's unique amongst the existing monsters in that its movement speed is 2, so it'll move. It can move 2 squares per turn. And so they're roughly in difficulty order, so the ogre down here is our toughest beast in the game. It's got 50 hit points, and it hits for 15, defends for 10. It's got a 60 base chance to hit. So maybe we can just start the balancing by just buffing all of these to hits. Or we give them all a baseline of 70. This one's already got a 70, so maybe Cobalt too. Kobolds are kind of tough. Troll's already at 8. That's good. That, we'll do a 70. Just bump these guys up a bit. $65 for the ogre. So the other thing that we can do is we can kind of buff hit points a bit. Before we get too deep into this, let's refresh our memory about combat. So here's our in-memory combat structure. You can see we read in some of the stuff from the config file, so like the 2-hit and then the base attack and defense values. But then we have modifiers that are dynamic, and those are based on equipment. So various equipment can have positive or negative effects on those modifiers. And then there's a dodge modifier, which I think we just want to get rid of dodging entirely. Let's look at the combat routine. Combat attack. So I think we're... So, call combat attack. Grab our attacker and defender components, and then we do our random number between 1 and 100 as our hit roll, and then the hit window is our base to hit percentage plus the modifier minus this dodge modifier. So if we're going to get rid of dodging, often are we really even using it? I guess some equipment has a dodge modifier. Which is Let's look at our which is stored in yet another config file. So we've got these dodge modifiers that are just simplify people. Dodge modifiers are going away. I have decreed. How's everyone doing out there? It's Sunday. Just gonna clean up all of the references to the dodge modifier. Should be a dodge. PC and got a little, I think with the combat I got a little bit too easy. All of the stats. So the fewer kind of variables will that'll allow us to reason a little bit better, allow the player to reason a little bit better about how combat works, and inform some decisions. How long have you been programming, and what tips would you have for a beginner that wants to learn? I've been programming for like 25 years, so I've been at this for a long time. But what tips would I have for a beginner? It depends entirely what type of programming I like to do. There are many different applications for programming. I'm not sure you want to learn C# game dev, so you're probably interested in like perhaps programming for the Unity engine. If you're interested in learning Unity, I would suggest that you download it. It's a free download for both Mac and Windows, and they've got a series of video tutorials that are pretty good. So I would start with those for sure. You might want to get a book on C#. But honestly, there's a lot of online documentation for Unity as well. So I would get started with those videos. They've got several different tutorials based on the type of game you want to build, and they get you familiar with the Unity environment itself and kind of what that engine can do. So I would say check out what they have to offer first. But if you want to learn C# development for Windows applications outside of games, Microsoft's got a lot of. They probably have an online C# manual. I'm not using Unity for this project. Is there a reason? The reason is that I wanted to build a game from scratch without relying on any libraries. So the only library that I have a dependency on is the SDL2 library, and that will allow me to handle graphics and user input in a non-platform specific way. So I can use the same code to target Windows and Mac and Linux. And the SDL library handles the native operations for those environments. But other than that, I'm not using any libraries that I've built. And that was mainly, that was a goal that I had from the start. I wanted to build something. I wanted to build my own engine to kind of see how they worked, to mess around with C programming and learn the ins and outs of that. And it's been interesting. It's been frustrating, but it's been interesting. So I hope that answered your question. C#. The best way to learn is really to just kind of watch a video or get a book or whatever, but mainly just get in there and start doing it. Start making mistakes and learning from those mistakes, and just kind of figuring things out. Go bitter? Yes. Unity is not a. It's the old saying where if you give a man a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail. Well, Unity right now seems to be the hammer. But so to each his own. I'd say if you're learning game development, you're more interested in kind of putting together the game mechanics and almost doing prototyping or testing out game ideas. An environment like Unity is great for that stuff. It's great for prototyping. And it's obviously great. It's a good environment for building larger scale games as well. But I'm enjoying digging in and getting my hands dirty with the low levels. Alright, do we still have dodge modifier? Yes, we do. Still got a couple more. Get rid of all this junk. Okay, no results. So there was a call. Several calls here to. Let's build. Oh, sorry, I'm on Unix. It's a make. Alright, so we've got. Yeah, game C 870. There's a couple calls that we need to fix up. Jump to 1. G 71. Is that what it was? Yep, item add. So we get dodge modifier. So, 843. Which one is it? PC app. Let's go to this. And then see, it was one of the last. Maybe it was even the last one. Let's see if I can do my git. Is it going to show me side by side? See, yeah, there it was. So it was in the last place. Okay. Good. So I can just get rid of that last 0. Yeah, everything that doesn't work is my own fault. Yes, exactly. Although I don't know if you were here at the very start of the stream. I was trying to test run the game, test build it. It's been a while since I've last streamed, so I was just testing the build on my Windows machine today, and it decided to, instead of draw my graphics, draw a plain white screen. Which I've never seen before, and I can only guess that since I haven't changed any code in the last couple months, that it was due to the latest Windows update and perhaps some incompatibility with SDL. So I'm gonna dive into Google later and try and track that down, but that's not going to be any fun to do on stream. So I switched over to the Mac, and here we are. Sometimes you can blame the OS, or at least that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Okay, so we removed dodge from everywhere. Let's see if we can build without crashing here. It doesn't. SDL doesn't start up cleanly. Back. Yeah, it. I heard that there were lots of problems with the Windows, upgrade, and yes. So I have a feeling that it borked my SDL. So I'll need to download the latest SDL libraries and mess around and see what's what, because I commented all the rendering code out and I just tried to render a black screen using SDL and it wasn't working. So something's... Thanks, Microsoft. That's why we can't have nice things. All right. So we're in combat. We are not crashing the game, so I think we've probably successfully removed our dodge metric. Garter war grinder here. There's a bat, and we die. Okay, so now we again tripped our Hall of Fame exception. What value? Key. I'm not going to spend too much time on this, so I just want to see what's what. Oh, let's see what our enemy is. So it's trying to insert it into... It's probably trying to insert it at the end of the list again. But this isn't even at that point. This is just... Where's this player name coming from? I thought it was a global. It is.
Every man has his own ambition.
I don't know what they changed, Ginkgo Bitter. But I know a lot of people were complaining about OBS not working after the update as well. Mine seems to be working okay in that regard, but not sure what else they changed. Destroying player name anymore. So let's see. For my name generator, my awesome fantasy named character name generator. I just want to make sure it's null terminated. So let's jump into string create. Link +1 so that we have our null character. Seems like it's correct. Dive into that a bit later. Nothing's immediately obvious. Let's get back to our balancing. So we removed the dodge mechanic. Yeah, it was the weird creator update. And I don't think it's that they didn't read the prompt, it's that Microsoft was really aggressive about pushing that down people's throats. They either people got updated without even consenting to it. There was a lot of blowback on that. Because the Microsoft window, the updating strategy is really aggressive. You're lucky, Ginkgo, that you got one prompt and said no. Because a lot of people, it would just be they would be sitting at their computer and it's just like Windows Update starting now, and like no no option to say no or even to delay it. So All right, so we've got our dodge. Let's look at my list again. We can make the monsters hit harder. Oh, we did make them. We changed their base hit percentage. So we can make the monsters hit harder. For sure. Buff their attack. I think the player starts with 20 HP. So there's to be careful about not making monsters too crazy hard off the bat. Yeah, exactly. If you're just typing at your machine and all of a sudden a dialogue pops up, you don't even see it. You just hit the enter key or whatever, or spacebar or whatever the default auto select is, then yeah, you're down that rabbit hole. Do you have any high-level documentation for my code? I do not. You can see if you hit GitHub up above, you can grab all of the code from the repository and look it over. It shouldn't be too terribly difficult to figure out what's going on. The only really different thing is that you won't see a lot of header files because I have done what's called a Unity build, which means that I'm basically up here in my dark.c. I'm linking in all of the other C files so that it gets put into one single compilation unit, and then it's compiled as one big unit, as opposed to pulling in various header files. And I did that. There's arguments for and against doing things that way. I wanted to give it a try, so that's what we did for this particular project. Uzix, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Anybody else, if you haven't hit that follow button yet, go ahead and hit it, and you can get notified the next time I go live, which I promise will be sooner than the months that I've been gone recently. I'm hoping to get back onto a more regular streaming schedule. Alright, let's make those monsters hit harder. So yeah, I mean, check out the repo. If you have questions about anything, just hit me up on Twitter or GitHub or any of that stuff. Let's not bump these guys too much. Let's give them a little bit of well, so we could have some kind of scaling where the monster attacks get a modifier based on the dungeon level. We could do something like that. Let's just... Kobolds are already pretty hard. Let's leave that. And trolls you're not going to see until later. That's good. Let's make them hit a little harder. Works maybe 10. Bats are pretty... Those are pretty nasty. Alright, let's just adjust a little bit with the attack. We can play test it, kind of see how it feels. But I think maybe let's add that to our list of ideas. Let's go with the dungeon level. That works. Let's jump into our items to make them hit a little less. So attack modifier for a sword, let's make that like a 3. Dodge modifier can come out entirely. Let's just maybe get rid of those. Shield. Shield's probably fine. Dodge modifier. Stuff goes away. The battle axe, that thing hits like a truck. We need to scale that down. It does have a to-hit modifier of -10. Just I'll leave that. The attack modifier is going to be like 8, maybe. Okay. Thanks, Tim. My home's a bit of a mess right now because we're in the aftermath of Thanksgiving, so there's like a stack of chairs and stuff back there, all sorts of crap. All right. Let's see. Null Squared, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Alright, so you kind of nerfed the items a bit. So we can give it a playtest, see what it looks like. I wonder if our parser's gonna barf. Probably need to update the parser for items. Let's see. No, it doesn't seem to have barfed. Thought it might try and read that. Alright, we picked up the sword. Let's equip that. The breakpoint. Breakpoint there. Equip that. So you can see our modifier now is a 3. I think it was like a 5. Still took out the snake pretty easily. 2 gems in this room. Let's pick up a helmet as well. With that. Are you? VS Code's a little weird. When you a breakpoint, it's still for that entire debugging session. Apparently, there's a ghost. There. Just head downstairs. Okay. So, like, the goblin's hitting us for 2 damage, and we're hitting it for like 5 to 7. That seems... I don't know. Doesn't seem real fair. Kobolds are kind of nasty, but again, we chopped through those pretty quickly. So once we had a sword, we're kind of a badass. Let's just trip that. Yes, I get it. Doesn't like the Hall of Fame. Actually, about that later. So... I don't really want to nerf the equipment much more, so maybe we just make the monsters hit a little bit harder. Let's go to our damage routine real quick and make sure. So the other thing is, I think that there's RNG in the damage generation, and that's not... Hey Ethan, how's it going? I don't want any RNG in the damage generation. I think that should just be straightforward. Combat deal damage. Okay. Ethan, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Enjoy it. SDL does 3D. You can certainly build 3D, a 3D engine with SDL. I don't know if it does it out of the box. It's a good question. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. SDL. Just go to the SDL2 page. I think it's really just kind of what you want to do with it. It gives you a blank slate. Um, yeah, I mean, if you look at the documentation, it'll use OpenGL and Direct3D, but it gives you a blank slate. So if you choose to render 3D graphics on top of that, I haven't touched SDL since you were 8 with Pascal. Nice. I didn't even realize Pascal targeted SDL. Although I think it's got bindings for pretty much everything these days. It's been around for time. I don't know, tutorials for SDL. They do have OpenGL tutorials, so I mean, SDL lets you build. It basically gives you access to the pixels, and so if you have access to those pixels, you can render whatever graphics you want on there, 3D or 2D or whatever. I'm surprised if you're 19 now. When you were 8, I'm surprised that you learned Pascal. Because it seems like Pascal was kind of past its heyday by then. I mean, I learned Pascal when I was in high school, but that was a long time ago when there was Borland Turbo Pascal, and that was a pretty awesome compiler. Nice. Turbo and Free Pascal, yeah. I learned using the Borland compilers, so I had Turbo C++ and I had Turbo Pascal, and when I took AP Computer Science in high school, the test was in Pascal. Elder Scrolls Arena is something you'd like to make? Old school games? Yeah, I mean, there's kind of been in the recent years, especially on mobile, this kind of throwback to retro graphics and the old 8-bit graphics and 8-bit music and chip tunes. And, yeah, basically, there's if you're looking to make a game, my advice to you is make a game that you want to play. Kind of don't worry about checking the boxes because you're not going to compete with the AAA titles. So make a game that you're passionate about and that you want to play. And chances are that if it's something you're interested in, there's going to be a whole bunch of other people out there interested in the same thing, and they will hopefully find your game and enjoy it. So, where were we? Damage? Where did we lost it? Combat, deal damage. Here it is. We're going to remove the RNG, because here it is. We got RNG, and I mean, I think the only RNG should be whether you hit or not. And once you hit, it should kind of be straightforward that you're going to do the damage. I don't know. Again, I was trying to get playing with all sorts of stats. Just want to make a game for yourself and possibly give out for free with the source. Yeah, so that's kind of what I've done here. And as I said, the link to the repository is right above my head, and you can grab the code and use it as a base for your own game. You can enhance it, build on it, change it entirely. Yeah, go crazy. But it was kind of my... I wanted to build an entity component system. I wanted to learn straight up C coding, and this has kind of checked all those boxes for me. Although, still not the best C coder. I'm still learning that stuff. Alright, so combat, deal damage. Total attack, we've got this random... It looks like it's going to generate a number between our 0 and our attack or defense base, and then add the modifier. So the modifier is always... That's kind of your damage base. And the problem is that monsters don't get... They don't get a modifier. So they're already at a disadvantage. Or monsters. Let's change this. Move the randomness. So now your attack is, and it's going to just be your straight up attack plus the modifier. Some syntax I'm unfamiliar with. If you figure out where that is, just chat it out and I'll try and jump to what might be what you're unfamiliar with. I have used some liberal use of like type defing and stuff, so I may be using variable types that you're unfamiliar with. So instead of like int 32 underscore t, I just have i32 for a 32-bit signed integer, and then I have u32 for an unsigned 32-bit integer. But if there's something else, let me know. Alright, so our attack is going to be pretty transparent. It's just the attack base plus the modifier. Same with defense. But again, the monsters are at a disadvantage because they don't get any modifiers. So let's build a modifier in for our beasties. And so we know the attacker and the defender. So if the attacker is the monster, we should give some kind of boost here. Because again, our monsters don't get a modifier. So what would good? Maybe this is where we add our scaling, because we talked about a little bit earlier, scaling the attack damage based on the level of the dungeon. So we could do something like every maybe we add a modifier of 1, and then like for every 3 levels of the dungeon we add another damage point on there or something. And maybe they become a little harder to hit as well. So let's do something like that. Let's do let's call it monster. And we'll start it off at 1. You can add it in here. Give it to defense as well. So what we'll do is we'll do some kind of scaling. Oh. That's wrong. We don't want to add it across the board. Let's do... just do this. Oh, all the key bindings are different. Jumping from Mac to Windows with the Visual Studio Code key bindings are killing me. Combat attack. What is it? That'll get us close enough. Damage right here. That sounds cool, Ethan. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, pick an idea you're gonna stick with, because you're passionate about it. Got to have. Go. Okay. So yeah, we'll do if the attacker is not the player. We can do this. Attacker is the player. This up here. Attacker is not the player. Then we're gonna do monster mod is gonna be 1 plus our dungeon. Is that actually? It's not. Yeah, let's jump up. Okay, see what the. We've got like a current level. Current level. Okay, but that's not our current level number. There it is. So current level number. We'll do mod 3. Every 3 levels. No, not mod 3. Div 3. Should work. So we'll have 1. So for levels 1 through 1 and 2, it'll just be a +1 modifier, and then once we hit level 3, it'll become 2, so on and so forth till. So we'll do total attack equals monster mod. Why it's not autocomplete? We'll also add that to total defense. Okay, so now the monsters have a fighting chance. Seem, perhaps. Let's give it a go. There's one other thing that I like to show people that's built into this. That I built into this engine, and it was an ASCIIfying routine, so it can take any bitmap and ASCIIfy it. So this is actually this title screen is actually based on an image, and you can toggle. Right now, I've built it in so you can toggle between bitmap and ASCII graphics. So if you hit T, you can see this is what the image was, and then that's what it looks like when it's sent through my ASCII rendering engine, which I think is kind of a neat thing. It's fun to build that. There's still a couple artifacts on some of the images. So like if you go on the inventory screen, it's the same thing. Got these strange like comb teeth over here. It's little extra artifacts, which is weird, but again, I can look at that later. If you catch it was done in an unusual way. I think you're not freeing by screens. The Malik and screen show endgame. Okay, so the show endgame. Give me 1 sec. We'll jump to that in a sec. But I just want to test this. Let's equip up here. We've got a sword and a shield, and then let's equip those. And so these kobolds should probably be pretty difficult for us now. So it keeps hitting for 1 damage, so something's wrong. So I've made them into total wusses. That was the opposite of the intention. So let's figure out what's up. 50. Oops, wrong file. Total attack. So it's the attack plus the attack modifier, and so attacker not equal to player. Monster mod equals 1 plus that. Breakpoint in. And then I'm adding it to the total. Oh, okay, let's see. Total attack. I don't want to add it to defense. I don't want to add it to defense in this case because then I'd be adding to the player's defense. But what I want to do is have it be so if the attacker's the player, not the player, the attacker's the monster, it gets a bonus to the attack. Otherwise, if the attacker is the player, the monster will get a bonus to its defense. So that's better. I don't think that explains why I was getting the constant 1 damage. But if the defense is higher than the attack, I think I might have a check against that, but we'll check that in a sec. Kobold. Alright, now it's hitting for... So it was hitting for 1, I think, just because I was boosting the player's... defense by too much. Alright, what if... So right here, if total defense is greater than or equal to total attack, then it says your attack didn't do any damage. And I don't do any of the health calculations. Yep. So if the defense is higher, no, the creature does not. The attacked creature does not get more health. Just doesn't. Nothing happens. So what was the other? You said in the screen show end game. Let me get that. Okay. Let's jump to that. So I'm malloking the UI screen right here, and then I don't deallocate it. You're right, because I'm returning it to the caller. Let's see if we can find. I mean, I'm intentionally not deallocating it, because if I deallocate it here, when I return it, then giving my caller a bad pointer. And so with the end game screen, I may not be deallocating it at all because it's the end game screen and just the player finishes, the memory gets cleaned up by the OS. But let me see. It's going to be setting the active screen, which grabs the UI retains the pointer to that. And so when set active screen, let's dive in here. I suspect that we're going to be I think I have a list of screens somewhere. Back. Death. Yeah, I might be leaking some memory here. Thought I had a list of screens, but I don't see that getting added to the list. We just have active screen. So what we could do here, let's clean that up. It's a good catch. Let's look at that. So in our active screen, no, set active screen, sorry. Let's do, we can do a cleanup of our active screen. So we can just do, let's see if, try that and see how that is. Let's see what we got. Okay, so we just switched screens, so theoretically our title screen was just cleaned up. Without crashing, that's always a good thing when you mess around with memory. And I just got wrecked by some kobolds. So maybe we've made them a little too... It's my game screen. Oh, wrong screen. Nope, wrong screen again. So it's gone. Alright, well, I think we've made the monsters a bit harder now. Yes, except for the last one that doesn't, but that gets cleaned up by the operating system. Hey, ProClicks, how's it going? Yes, no Unity. Kind of a blank slate handed to me by the SDL library for graphics and input, and we've just kind of built everything on top of that. But yes, so the very last screen that we allocate will not be cleaned up by this routine, Ginkgo Bitter, but it will, when the last screen will be whatever the screen is before the user quits, and when the user quits and the app shuts down, the operating system will clean up any allocated memory by that application, if it's doing its job properly. Thanks, ProClicks. No, it's not rocket science. It's just many years of experience and tinkering and playing around. How far have I gone so far in the game? This is, I think this stream is day 47. and each stream is is usually between like an hour and 3 hours. So not an excessive number of hours of work, just kind of spread out over. We've probably been working on this now for a year and a half. Just kind of when I get a chance, and that the game has definitely suffered for that, because if you're just doing it inconsistently, it takes a lot of time just to kind of get back to where you left off last time. And if you know what your train of thought was, picking up that thread is difficult if there's weeks or months in between the last time you sat down to code. So if you're gonna do this, I suggest that try and be somewhat regular, so that you can keep the code fresh in mind, and it'll take you less time to jump back in, so there'll be less of a barrier to restart, and also for some of the more complicated algorithms and bits, you may have forgotten the direction that you were planning to go, and when you resume, you may inadvertently add bugs or go in a less optimal direction. But yeah, do what you can. Get 2 of these windows open. Why VS Code likes to open two tabs for the same file, and that has really screwed me up in the past. Alright, so our monsters definitely seem harder, so the balancing is pretty good. I wonder if we've gone too far in the other direction. But there are some things that... Let's put combat on a back burner for a moment, because I think we've made it better. One thing I'd like to do is this, make equipment degrade over time and then get destroyed. So what I think I'd like to do is build some kind of countdown. Sure, go ahead, ask your question, ProClicks, no worries. All questions are welcome. Take a step back from combat and hey, I don't even know how to try and say that name. Pukate? I can just call you Stee. Welcome to the stream. How's it going? Let's see. So, I'd like to add some kind of equipment, kind of countdown timer, where each turn it'll tick the timer down, and then after some number of turns, the equipment kind of degrades beyond usability, and the user will have to, it'll just disappear or drop it. Just Puka? Okay. Welcome to the stream, Puka. ProClicks, thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome. And Puka, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're enjoying it. So we want to add a countdown timer to our items so that they go away after a certain amount of time. Makes it a little bit more difficult for the user. They can't just be on cruise control once they suit up. And I think I'd just make that, I don't know that I would make that something that is a property of the item itself. I suppose we could, but maybe we just try it to start with without. Let's see. Let's jump into our game code, get our equipment, which entity we're going to add it to, or which component. So I'm guessing we'll do we've got this equipment component that's probably something that is particular to equipment. Learning C as a second language. You recommend any resources? I have a bunch of recommendations, and I forgot to do it before I started streaming. I was going to add a bunch of Amazon links to various books that I've found helpful. But looking over at my bookshelf, I would say there's a book called 21st Century C, which came out in the last couple of years, and it's kind of it's a look at the C language from a more modern viewpoint. So not like Kernighan and Ritchie C, old school, 80s, 90s C programming, but treating C as the modern programming language that it is, and kind of taking some advantage of some of the newer features that have been introduced. So C programming, you've got Kernighan and Ritchie, you've got the C programming language. I would recommend that book only as a historical reference. I would not recommend that book if you are learning C as a brand new language right now. And the reason for that is that it is outdated. And the code that it uses for as examples is outdated coding standards for C. So I would not use that. I've got a book called Programming in C. Let me grab a couple off my bookshelf. And then ProClicks. I'll get to your question in one sec. Hold on. Alright, I'm back. You probably have this book right here, the C Programming Language by Kernighan and Ritchie, and like I said, I've got it, but I use it for historical reference, because this book was published in, the second edition of this book was published in 1988. So that is, it just like the code that you see, the example code, it's kind of not current coding styles and all that stuff. What I've got I've got Programming in C. This is a Pearson, Edison, Wesley book. I'm going to put a bunch of links up on my Twitch page. This is always helpful, the little O'Reilly, the pocket references. I find those pretty helpful. Denton Stark, 1988 is when I was born. That makes me feel bad. Thank you. The pocket reference is always good. I get these for pretty much all the languages that I use because it's real concise. And then there's data structures using C. I haven't read this through all of this yet, but it seems pretty good. It's the second edition, and it's Oxford Higher Education, so data structures using C. And then again, I didn't even grab it. 21st Century C. It's an O'Reilly book. I highly recommend that as well for more modern C programming practices. Let me see. Roguelike. I'm building a finance-related program in Python. Okay. Users seem to have a hard time since they have to adjust many filters for the outcome. I want them to type their request from the @ and return with the result. Can't get any of them to say hi on console. So are you using what libraries are you using? I'm sorry, they're deleted. API dot. So you're trying to interface with these libraries from Python? API.ai? That one. dialog flow. Interesting. Oh, is this for like natural language processing and stuff? What about resources for people who have a hard time learning from books? So, yeah, probably classes. You can take online classes, or you can take you can just look at YouTube or videos. I find, like, honestly, watching Twitch has been pretty helpful. It's cool to see what other people are doing and how other developers work. It's kind of neat. You're trying to get at those engines to grab the entities and return the. So does Dialogflow have? It must have an API, right? It's got this SDK. So it's got the Python SDK. I would say just try and. Here's the GitHub. Just there must be links for sample code or something here. I would just try and go through some of those examples. Because typically when I'm trying to interface with a new library, I'll see what kind of code they have, how their sample code works. Sometimes the sample code gives you an indication as to the quality of the library itself. If they've got crappy examples and you start to question what's inside the actual SDK. This seems pretty good though. You can do your pip install here for Python, and then that should put it in the right places. There should be got some examples here. So I'd say just try and go through these. All right. So, we're going to add a countdown timer of some sort to our equipment component. So this component is assigned to every entity that we consider to have properties of equipment. No worries, Puka. Yeah, ProClicks, I'd say try installing the SDK and just I thought I saw a link to some sample code or some tutorials or whatever. It should be pretty straightforward to get it running through the Python, through the interpreter. Let's see. Let's make it. We'll add an i32, 32-bit integer. Could call it lifetime. Use counter? I don't know. Sometimes naming is the hardest part. Lifetime. Let's just call it lifetime. That'll be fine. Just add a comment here. Turns till grades beyond use. Would you tell us how likely you are to recommend Microsoft C++ extension? How about not now, Microsoft? Busy. That said, I am enjoying Visual Studio Code. It integrates pretty well with the various debuggers and compilers on the different environments that it runs. And it runs on Mac and Windows, Linux, I believe. It's the first edition from... I think... Are they up to a second edition, Puka? I think recently they did come out with a second edition. Honestly, I think I bought it. I bought the first edition and liked that, and then I liked it so much that I got the second edition. If I remember correctly. All right. So we'll add a lifetime counter to our equipment. And for now, let's just set it up to be the same for all equipment. We'll set the value when the equipment is created, and then each turn we will decrement the lifetime for all of our equipment, and we'll have some kind of system that sweeps through after every turn and handles end of life for equipment. Cool kids use Vim. I agree. I like Vim. But out of the box, VS Code is pretty simple to integrate with the debuggers and everything. Vim, I would imagine that there's plenty of plugins you can get for the various debuggers, but I also am not a VI person. There is a Vim plugin for VS Code, that's right. And I would love to be better at VI, but it's something that if you don't use it like every day, excuse me, please. If you don't use it every day, that you tend to forget all the different combinations and stuff, and I don't use it regularly enough. So maybe I just need to force myself to use it. Alright, so where do we... Maybe it's item? I think it's like add buried items. Oh, so yeah, item creation. We don't want to do it on item creation. We want to do it once the player... Yeah, there's, I think there's key bindings for, VI key bindings for VS Code. Den Stark, thank you very much for the sub. I appreciate it. Glad you are enjoying the stream. Let's... We don't want the... Don't want to decrement the counter unless the has the item equipped. Maybe we'll do that. Seriously though, Dan Stark, thank you very much. Thank you for the sub. I actually need to get, I need to design my sub emotes. So, fortunately, I don't have them yet. I will do that, perhaps this week. But I do appreciate it. Got your little purple star there. I don't know. Suggestions from the chat. What kind of emote do you think I should have for subs? I'm thinking that I'm just gonna go real basic and do like some treatment of the @ sign. It seems to tie in with the rest of what I'm doing on this channel, so I might do something like that. Something related to null pointers. I could do that as well. I see a lot of those on the stream. Alright. Yeah, I don't know how to make that into an emote. Null pointer, it's like a garbage can, or it's a black hole or something. Some global emotes too. I'm not sure what's BTTV. Oh, is it? That's like a third-party like add-on service, isn't it? I think for Twitch. Alright, let's see. Item. Let's do item. Should give me item add. So that's when we read it in, add it to the game. That is not when we want to. Maybe that's when we want to set the counter. We don't want to decrement it. Better Twitch TV browser plugin. Oh, okay. I think a lot of that stuff they're trying to Twitch itself is building in with all of their extensions work. Some of the stuff that they're doing with extensions, I think, is going to be similar to what BT TV might offer. I went to Developer Day at TwitchCon and learned all about extensions and the stuff that they're building right now. It's like Twitch is getting super cool. It's going to be a lot of fun to be on the platform as a broadcaster, and then also as a viewer, or as a developer for the Twitch platform. Start to be able to really monetize, you know, these different extensions for the platform. Particular way of using the struct initializers. Which one? The type def stuff? Let me. All right, so let's do this. We'll jump here. So I'm at 670. Explicitly named field to. So okay, so Ginkgo Bitter, that is a perfect example of more modern C idioms. Kernighan and Ritchie turns like a type def into. It has like type def struct. It would have you type def struct physical, and then on a separate line there would be like type def struct physical. You'd have to like alias it or some kind of crap like that. Oh, you're talking about initializing the struct? Yes, that again is also modern. I think it was introduced in C99, where you could do the subfield, which is where we just were. Jump to that, 670, I guess that it was. Yeah, so like this stuff where you're actually naming the field and setting it inside the struct initializer, yes. This is all stuff that you'll see in that 21st Century C book, that you will never see in Kernighan and Ritchie C because it's newer to the language since that book was written. I think it was added in C99. How do you run the game? There's multiple ways to run the game. Basically, you run it from the command line. But VS Code will invoke. It can invoke the debugger and then launch the game and attach to it. So in VS Code, if you've set your debugging config up, you can just hit F5. But if you drop to a command line, not that command line, this one. You can just do a make if you're on Unix. And then I've also written, for Windows, I've written a build.bat file that you can do, which will do your compiling, and then you just do dark. Command. Perpsped. Propsped. Bad at these names. Thank you for following. Appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. So yeah, running the game. I think VS Code opens these windows behind the scenes. Must, because look at all this crap. Wow, that's a lot of windows. All right, so this is what this routine gets called when an item is created in the game. We're adding our game object here, and then which is our entity, and then we spin up all of these different components. And an item has various components. It's got position, it's got physical traits, it's got visibility traits, combat, and then it's got equipment traits as well. Puka, do I have a schedule? No, I wish I did. I am going to try and stream more regularly and hopefully get on a schedule, but right now it's kind of when I get a chance, which typically happens either weekend mornings or weekend morning Pacific time. So like I started around 11 Pacific, or evenings, weekday evenings, between 7 and 9 p.m. again Pacific time. But hopefully I will be able to get on a somewhat more regular schedule. All right, so when we spin up our equipment, let's 682. I was gonna just now define. Let's define. Lifetime, and we'll just call it. What's a fair number of turns for an equipment lifetime? Let's see. Average steps per level might be. C still a relevant language to learn in 2017? Yes, it is. If nothing else, it will teach you the most about what's really going on inside your computer. You may not want to write giant programs in it, but learning the fundamentals of memory management will help you with whatever type of programming you end up doing. I'm going to start lifetime off with 500. That seems like a fair initial value. We can, again, play test it and see if it feels too long or too short time. So 6 something. Okay. So we'll start it up. When we're adding an item to the game, we will set up its default lifetime here. VS Code, a good code editor to use with C. I find it works pretty well. For a while I was using Sublime Text, which is also great. For editors, I typically I work on Windows and Mac, so I want an editor that will work cross-platform, and both Sublime Text and VS Code do that. The VS Code on Windows integrates particularly well with the debugger. So if you watch some of the earlier streams, I was using Sublime Text, but then if I ever had to step through the code, I would actually launch Visual Studio and then attach to the running executable, and that was kind of a pain in the butt. So VS Code takes care of launching the debugger, attaching to the running program, and then hitting the breakpoints. And there's like a nice UI for all of that. So I would, I'd give that a look, and it's free. So, I mean, if you hate it, yeah, you can find something else. If you love it, then great. You're not out any money. what's the best resource to learn a programming language like C? It kind of depends on how you, as a student, learn best. I usually like to read a couple of books or online, programming manuals for the language, and then just kind of look at sample code, or watch either YouTube streams or Twitch streams, if there are particular aspects that maybe you're a little stuck on. I don't think any of the Khan Academy or any of that does C, but if you're learning other programming languages, Khan Academy is good for JavaScript and stuff, or there's several coding schools also that have free sample language tracks that you can get a taste for how they're doing that. But however you learn best. Yeah, Udacity probably has some of that stuff as well. Although I found Udacity to be kind of hit or miss. Your mileage may vary. So we're setting up our lifetime. So now our items should have a lifetime. So now we need to handle decrementing that lifetime. And so I think we want to do that. Let's look at our game. So we've got this game update routine. Environment update. FOV, I think. Skim through the 21st Century C book. Yeah, I mean it's a good. I don't know what Unicode means. It's a good refresher on some of the more modern applications of the language. Yeah, I think you'll find that with any book. There are some tricks that can be applied, but it's with different caveats, only if you're doing this. It's kind of like all those JavaScript frameworks that you see out there that are the next best thing. And then you dig a little bit deeper, and it's well, they're the next best thing if you're building a to-do list. But if you get more complicated than that, then you're out of their depth. You want to make something like Shovel Knight, you need to learn much more for that. Yeah, I mean, if C is your very first programming language, it's going to be tough. I'll be honest, because on top of all of the programming and computer science topics in general that you'd need to be learning, C is rather unforgiving. But that you can argue it either way. Sometimes that's a good thing. Dealing with an unforgiving language really forces you to get it right. That said, if it's so unforgiving that you get frustrated and quit, that's not a good thing. So give it a try, see how it goes. But if it starts to get really bad, then maybe take a step back and explore different options. You could go with something like JavaScript, or you could go with something like a C#, where you're building against Unity. Because at the end of the day, if you want to make a game, then the end result is what counts. If you want to see that game made then need to take the steps that are best for you to get to that completed game, and don't let people say like, oh, Unity is like a cop out or any of these things, because at the end of the day, if the game is playable and it's fun, who cares really what it's built in? But good luck. I hope that you enjoy learning. Alright, so this is our game update routine that's called, I believe, every loop through our game loop, which may or may not be a turn. So that's why we have this if here. So if player took a turn, then this is where we put all of the things that are affected by the player taking a turn. So this is where we're going to want to add our equipment lifetime handler. I think maybe we'll do it after movement, but before we do an environment update. Let's look at this. Check to see if there are items. So, yeah, I think what we're going to do is we will we'll run a pass to remove items, or decrement the lifetime, and then remove. Right, good luck. Equip. Lifetime. Date. Seems generic enough. We can call it item lifetime. Alright, Puka, take it easy. Thanks for dropping by. See you next time. Thanks for the follow. Do we have some stuff? Level management. I'm just trying to figure out the best place to put this. There we go. Item management routines. I knew I had a section. So we'll create an item. Item lifetime update, and so what we want to do, I think, is degrade it based on whether it's equipped or not. Should it be whether it's carried or whether it's equipped? I think equipped. Maybe just carried. Let's do that. So I believe we have a list of items that the player has in get carries. Here we go. Carried items. Let's borrow this. Let's So we're going to loop through all of the carried items. We'll grab the game object, grab the equipment component of that object, and say that the equipment lifetime is going to be minus equals 1. Just move on to the next piece of equipment. So every turn that the player, every turn, not every game loop. We will decrement the lifetime of all the equipment that the user is carrying. Seems good. And so I guess what we can also do is we can also check to see if any of that stuff is. So so if time is, we will move it item get. Do we have item already? So there it is. Up. It takes the game object. We don't want to drop it, we want to just destroy it. Let's do this. And we definitely want to display a message. We're just going to borrow so much code here from ourselves. Be careful with the copy pasta, because sometimes you screw yourself up. Let's be careful. So we already have the equipment component of it, so we can just unequip it. It's equipped, and we don't have an item. We have a game object here, so we'll do this. What kind of copy paste is that? Okay, there's our game object, toggle equip, and then we're going to remove the element with the data. It's going to be our object. We actually want to remove the whole too. So destroy. That should do it. And then we want to, before we destroy it, it's the key combination. Alt. Okay. Move it from the list of carried items. We want to display a message to the player that that their item is gone. So we'll do. Let's get a little. Let's see here. And then we can say if change the message based on kind of whether they were carrying it or not. So if it was equipped, we can say like the blank crumbles. I guess it's not necessarily in your hand. Hey, Destroy Computers, how's it going? Yeah, a long time no see your streams. I know. It's been. I was distracted by another project for several months, so I kind of put the game on the back burner. And then there was holidays, but now I'm back. Hopefully on a more regular basis. Welcome back. Crumbles. And then say Karen. Dust. Did I work on a game off stream? No, I worked on something completely different. I actually worked on a mobile app that lets you stream to Twitch from your phone. And I may stream some of that development going forward as well. But if you look at a couple of my VODs from around the time of TwitchCon, you can see me actually using that app that I built. Let's see. Carried items, display a message to the player, and then finally we're going to destroy our game object. What color? That should probably be good. Showing it right now in red. It's probably a good red message. Type message. Alright, so check to see if the item is aged beyond use. Let's set our initial value to something really, really low so we can test that. So maybe we'll set it to 10. Yeah, there was a bunch of VODs where I'm just like test, but there were a couple of VODs. I think I've cleaned up my my past videos repository, but should be a couple from Developer Day at TwitchCon that are actual like content. Programming language that I used Swift. I built it for iOS. And I'd like to maybe, one of the ideas, because this game is coming to an end here, like we're getting into the final cleanup, and heading towards the finish line for this particular project. So I've actually been thinking about maybe for the next project building a game, perhaps like a mobile game using Swift, because I want to dive into SpriteKit a little bit on iOS, or else build a more graphical roguelike, perhaps, or maybe both. keep a couple projects in the pipeline. So this, we should build this thing and see what happens. Didn't like something. Item toggle equip. Oh, it didn't like game object. Oh, God, I know what the deal is here. So the problem is that this, where I'm calling it in the C file is probably before the actual, before the toggle equip function itself. So we'll do 14. So we're calling toggle equip here, but it's actually declared right here. So you're gonna get that weird, I don't know why, this weird conflicting types error. It's misleading. It's a misleading error. It's a little bit more helpful here on the CLang because you get this note that gives you some indication as to what's actually going on. Oh, there's a different declaration that it sees, but it's not a super helpful error from the compiler. And I only recognize the conflicting type error because it's bitten me enough times before. Yeah, I include .c files again because I'm doing a Unity build, so I build everything as one single compilation unit as opposed to using header files, like a pairing of header and C files that will allow you to build different object files and then kind of link them all together. Instead, I pull all of the source code into one compilation unit and throw that whole thing at the compiler. Which is something I've seen other people do, and they say it leads to faster compilation times and all that good stuff. So I wanted to give it a try, but one of the downsides is, here where you've got you're pulling in C files and you have to make sure to get them pulled in the correct order, or else you're calling functions that haven't been defined, and it can lead to a headache. So that would be the downside. But it's something I wanted to try, so. And now I can experience both the bad and learn from that. So let's go. Typically what I've been doing when I run into these situations is I'll just throw the function declaration up here. So I'll do this. And that should clear things up. Doesn't like something else now. It cleared that one up. Oh, 1404. I think this is a copy pasta one. See, I was not careful with my copy pasta. Okay, good. So we got some warnings, which, again, the CLang compiler seems to be a lot more strict. Helps with, yeah, it does help with optimization. It can look at kind of the entire compilation unit and optimize the entire unit, as opposed to, yeah, linking within a particular, or optimizing within a particular object file. Alright, let's see what we've got now. Should build. Start. Got some equipment right here to test our stuff with. Gonna die to this stupid bat, aren't we? Alright. Eating a bat right off the bat is a bad thing. That definitely favors the monsters. So maybe we don't have bats on the first level or something. Can't even English anymore. Pick up a gem. Gems should not. I think we treat gems as equipment, so that should be. Let's find some equipment. Hey, there's a sword. Let's get it. So we picked up the sword, so now in 10 turns, we should get some kind of message about it crumbling to dust. Let's kill this goblin. Oh, what? Or maybe maybe the sword will crumble after 1 turn, which is obviously not the expected behavior. Does it? It's not in our inventory. So the crumbling part worked. It just worked a little bit early. Let's just see what's going on. It's fortunate for our player. So we're looping through our carried items. Let's put a breakpoint on. See if our lifetime is getting set up appropriate. Expect it to be, and then see what this statement is. So we're only looping through our carried items, so it shouldn't be getting its lifetime decremented before that. We're actually carrying it. Let's just verify that everything's working. I think it is. Obviously, there's something somewhere that it is not working as expected. So we've got our sword. Here's a get. Equip it. Going to move. So now we're inside. This lifetime should be see, our lifetime is set to 0, which is why we're losing it right away. So here it'll go to -1, and then it'll just enter our aged beyond use. So, oh, I know. Alright, let's look and see where we set it up. Time. So this is item add. Oh, it's 10. What's the right property? Time. Being funky in here. Oh, we are. We are. Darn it. Go. So when we're adding it to our world state, we actually make copies of all the data passed in for memory management reasons. So I need to Let's equip lifetime. Coco Picha, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Come to the stream if you're enjoying it. Equip data time. Alright, so now we're copying that data into our object in world state. Sec. Text it here. Nice. Okay. Now our world state object should be set up properly. SGL. I'll this up real quick. So we'll copy that. It doesn't happen all the time on the Mac, but it does happen sometimes. Something initializing that SDL library. Alright, so we've got some equipment right here in our room. Good. Pick up our sword, equip it. Let's walk around for 10 steps and see what happens. Oh. We'll hit our breakpoint. Should have our lifetime of 10 this time. Excellent, excellent. And then we're just going to jump right over it after decrement, so it should be fine. Okay, let's see if I can just break this. Which one is it? Now we should move around, and after 10 steps or so, we should see that message. There it is. The sword crumbles in your hands. And is it in our inventory? No, it's gone. And we lost our kind of modifier, our attack modifier here. So similar. I think our monsters might be a little too hard right off the bat. Now that we've kind of adjusted the modifiers that they get and everything, we may want to back off their attack strength. Equip the shield, equip it, and then... oh crap, bats. So you can see our defense modifier down here is 3. So it crumbles. Lived that long? Didn't live that long, darn it. So it crumbled, it should have... it should have backed out that modifier. So here's our endgame screen. Again, remember I make it from image, so that's actually maskified image. It's very strange. Why am I getting some flickering there? Oh, I wonder if that's, I'm actually... let's see. Start a new game. So, now our exception happened when I triggered the death sequence. So there's definitely something about where you insert, where you're trying to insert into the Hall of Fame code, or the Hall of Fame list. I'll have to look into that. Alright, so now monsters seem a bit too hard. Let's back that out a little bit. It's, especially the ones that appear at the very beginning. Back those off a little bit. The kobolds can be... it's really... the kobolds are nasty. And then for bats, bats are super hard. They drop their probability to appear on the first couple of levels and leave them hard, but a bat shouldn't be a super hard beast, I think. They'll just be fast. I'd even put that off in them. Okay, so the lifetime stuff seemed to work as well, so we can jump up to the top and set the actual lifetime. So we'll bump it up to 500. That should be good. What else is on our list? Monsters hit harder. Yeah, I think we've somewhat balanced combat out now. There's less RNG. We've made equipment degrade over time and get destroyed. Make the monsters take a turn if the player takes some action on the inventory screen and closes it. So we can do that. Or when they get something. The latter case is easier, so let's mark some of these off. Oh, come on, you can type. Made this. We did make the player's weapons do less damage and less powerful, blah blah blah. We did make the monster attack scale with the dungeon level. And then we'll make the monsters take a turn when the player gets something. That's a good thing. Next, that should be pretty easy to do. Yeah. Maybe it's item get or something. Get. Item get. There it is. What's the butterfly app? It's an app called Ulysses, and it's an awesome app. It's Mac and iOS only, so it does not have a Windows counterpart, but it's a great app for. I use it for writing and stuff, but it'll do. Basically, you can just mark up the text a little bit, and it'll do the auto formatting. It's just kind of a bare bones text editor. It kind of gets out of the way and lets you have kind of different projects and levels of foldering and that sort of thing. So if you're interested in like a text editor for writing, I'd give it a look. I recommend it. But again, it's Mac and iOS only. If you're doing NaNoWriMo this month, it's a great tool. Which this month I'm actually, I've done NaNoWriMo in the past, but this November was just too crazy. I didn't need the craziness of Nano on top of it. Alright, so we're in the item get, and I want to indicate that this will take a player's turn. So we do the picked up, blah blah blah. Just if they pick it up. So we'll only use the turn if they can pick it up. If they're carrying too much already, we'll give them a pass, and we won't burn a turn. Hey, Method Salt, how's it going? Sort of classes do you take to learn this? I I don't know that I ever took a straight up C programming class. In high school, like I was saying earlier, I learned Pascal in AP Computer Science, and then I went to college, studied computer science, and took some classes. And again, that was a mixture of Pascal and not C, but C++. But basically, typically I'll learn languages from reading a book or two on the subject, and just trying to mess around with the code myself and build simple projects, and gradually increase the difficulty or the scope of those projects as I learn more. All right, so we're not going to penalize the player if they try and pick something up and they're carrying too much already. But let's just see what the name of that flag is. I believe we probably set it in a... Not remove. I guess not. I guess that's the wrong. Item get combat, health. Got a movement section here somewhere. Here it is, movement update. What else we got? Generate target map. Okay, so movement update. That's what actually does the... what calls this. Player took turn. That's what it looks like. Player took turn. Gross sack of sacks. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. Alright, so game update call. So player took turn is what I think we're going to be interested in. That's the flag that we want to set. How does that get set? Set it in dark? Okay, we actually set it in the in-game screens. Okay, that is what we want. So we want player took turn. Set it to true. Trash Can, thanks for the follow. What is the best resource for advanced C learning? That's a good question. In terms of like classes, I'm not sure. You might find some higher level C programming classes at some of the online schools. Like it could be like Udacity, or even some of the best computer science videos that I've seen. And I don't know that they're specific to C, but MIT has put a lot of their programming classes online. And they recorded the classes, I think, several years back, but the curriculum really doesn't change from year to year too much. But some of their computer science and algorithms classes from MIT were pretty interesting. So if you want to look that up for some that's not super advanced stuff. Those were some of the more intro classes, but it was intro classes at MIT, which is pretty good. Yeah, CS50. I think that was. If that's the MIT one, or is there I don't know if Harvard's put some online as well, but I would check some of those out. Yeah, they are time intensive, but they're probably worth it. I think the CS50 also, if you don't have the time to read the video. I think they have transcripts as well. I'm not sure how some of that stuff really transcribes, because I think they write on the board or they do diagrams and that sort of thing. But I'd definitely check those out. What C compiler to use on Windows and Linux? Windows, I personally use the Visual C++ compiler that comes with Visual Studio, VS Code. On Mac, I'm using CLang, and Linux, I think you can go CLang or GCC. All right, player took turn. I think it's Harvard. CS50. I think CS50 is Harvard, but there's an equivalent at MIT's got a bunch of courseware up. That's pretty amazing. All right, so let's give a little bit more room to the code here. Where on earth were we? Down. So we're up here. Item drop, item toggle. Here we go. Item get. Here we are. So if we pick up the item, we'll be in this picked up the blah. I guess we have it in a couple places. Wait a minute. Oh, this is for gems. Oops. That's for gems. That's not... We handle gems differently, I forgot, than the equipment. So here. If they can pick up the equipment and add it to their inventory, we will do this, blah, blah, blah. You picked up the blah, and then we will burn turn for the player. Player took turn is true. Best way to write C that works exactly the same on Windows and Linux. Yeah, Ginkgo Bitter is right. Find a library or libraries that support both, such as SDL, which I'm using here, which allows me to do cross-platform graphics and input handling and audio if I ever get to that part of it. But yeah, it kind of those libraries are available natively on Windows, Mac, Linux, and then so you write to the library, and the library handles all the native. SDL has file handling. Well, why did I do all that myself? I think I just used the C library for the file. I should look at that though. All right. There's a little too much robot voice on this one. Let's jump ahead. Cherrick Studios, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. Files have gotten longer and longer, and source files are getting shorter and shorter. A million lines of header files. Yeah, for larger projects, that's definitely true. Serial killer. I know I've seen that. I do a lot of Objective-C coding for iOS, and compile times can get pretty crazy. All right, let's give this a try. So now when we get a piece of equipment, it should trigger a move for the monsters as well. Oh, I never did look that up. Great, we got equipment right here. So let's see, but we don't have any monsters. So let's see if we can find a monster and some equipment in the same room. Oh, here, follow me. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Okay, so now when I pick this up, the snake should move. And it did. Perfect. Now, I wonder if I should put some kind of indicator that, like, a piece of equipment's getting old or about to, get destroyed or crumble to dust. Because right now the player has no idea until they see that... Did I die? I guess I died. My death breakpoint. I wasn't paying attention. Poor GNU Warg Slinger. But yeah, clearly I have an issue here. There's a problem with the Hall of Fame list in that we're just not adding. Once it hits 10, we're not properly inserting into it. Let's add that to our list. So yeah, I think I've got this maybe when scores, let's see, are not added. It's just I have a couple other balancing things here. Move the ability to rest and replace with a health potion. Maybe now that the monsters are a little bit tougher, we leave the ability to rest in the game. Let's kind of punt on that one for a sec. Add an end game when level 20 is completed. The congrats screen, yeah, we still need to work on that. And then a win indicator to the lead. But so we did this one. Monsters take a turn when the player picks up something. Do we want to make them take a turn if they do something on the inventory screen? Let's not do that for now, because we're already hitting them with the move, with the turn penalty when they pick up something, so let's just let them pick up and equip it, make equipping it a 0 turn. So let's just nope that one for now. Get some game balancing. Alright, and then there's one for the monster walking AI. What tends to happen is that when well, it might be easier to show you if I can find a bunch of beasties off the bat. Serial Quiller, thank you for the follow. Again, welcome to the stream. So what tends to happen with the current walking AI is, watch these guys. They're walking in a straight line. I don't even know if you can see the kobold. He's kind of dark on the screen, but they tend not to be real smart about, like, they'll both line up, and instead of, like, the kobold, see how instead of the kobold trying to flank me, it just kind of stays right behind. Well, that time he actually seems to be flanking. But basically, that goblin is going to stick to me like glue, and the kobold will never get around the side. It's an unfounded issue. Basically, what I want to prevent is just the player being able to just keep running like this. You see, ran into trouble there, but oh, the file functions are there for porting between big and little Indian. Yeah, that's fun stuff. I forget what ARM is as well. I think it's little Indian. Intel is big Indian, I believe. Alright, maybe we don't mess around with the monster movement AI. It seems... I've seen some wonkiness, though. ARM can be both, huh? All right. I've got, let's see, what time is it? 2:10 Pacific. I've got a hard stop in about 20 minutes. So what can we tackle in like 20 minutes? Or what can we, maybe we just look at that. Maybe we just spend a little bit more time trying to figure out this Hall of Fame leaderboard issue. 'Cause it's starting to piss me off. What did we see? We saw this thing. Look at this. Maybe it's a Visual Studio Code thing. Silent ST, thank you for the follow. Appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. What is this? Is it a VS Code issue? Remove the display. Interesting, I wonder if it's a VS Code thing. I'm not sure why it linked to this page. Found any issues with iTerm? No, I prefer iTerm. So the only reason you see terminal here is because VS Code actually launches terminal in the background to do some of the command line stuff. But I've been using iTerm pretty much exclusively for the past couple of years. Exception. I wonder if, because when I mean I can, it says it's like a fatal error, but then I go ahead and can run just past it without issue. So I wonder if it's a Visual Studio Code thing on Mac. Because I haven't seen it on Windows. It's not there. Well, I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole too far, because it's not really affecting the game. Unlike the leaderboard one, which is affecting the game, that will crash the game hard. So and game and call it. Oh, I'm in the wrong file. Derp.
Away from home is where I'm meant to be. 'Cause I miss the times when it was only you and me.
Over. Gems found total greater than or equal to gem count, so it would crash right about here, wouldn't it? Sometimes on the player name it crashes. So I guess I just need to make sure that I'm doing all this properly. We loop through all of the entities in our Hall of Fame list. Then cast that to a config entity, and we look at the gems value. Gem count. Who dat? Let's just assume. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream, everyone. Let's see. Refamiliarize myself with the structure for our config files. So we've got 3 structs here. At the topmost level, we've got the config struct, which is basically just has a list of entities at this point. Each entity in the list is an instance of a config entity, which contains a name for the entity and then a list of key value pairs. Team Killer, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Welcome. And so each entity has a list of key value pairs. And a key value pair is basically a struct that is a 2 character strings, one for the key and one for the value. We store everything as characters. So our config entity is a name. Key values. So we have set value. Config entity. Entity gems. Big entity name key. I'm looking at the wrong. What does our Hall of Fame file look like? We've got record, which is date, gems, level, and name. So I think I've got a problem here that I'm looking at our config entity, and there shouldn't be. Oh wait, I think I look inside. Let's look at this. Okay, I grabbed the key value pairs and then I look. I was like, I'm at the wrong level. I built that into this function. So given the entity, it will look for this key inside of the entity, looping through all the elements in the key value pairs. We do a string compare against the key. If we have a match, we return the value. Otherwise, going, fall out of this loop, we return. So that should get us our gem. So let's look at our corresponding set. Make sure that that looks good. Here we're adding a new key value pair, which is supplied to the function. So if our entity doesn't already have a key value pair list, we create one. And add. We generate a key value pair. We allocate the memory for it, and then we set the values by duplicating the strings, not just pointing to them, which is correct. And then insert that tail after the tail of the list. Seems good. Set bound. This tail. Just returns list tail. So if the tail is set to null, it's fine. Let's push it. It's good. So we've set up this entity, we add the local, we add the date and time to it, and then we do a certain element containing for the element, okay, break out a loop. It's concerned that but should be a return. Inserting it config. So it's fine when you're adding it. It's fewer than 10 entities. Issue really comes into play. Contains more than 10, call the list. Oh, wait a minute. added. Set that. So theoretically, we should be right. Back out. Didn't zero. Not from mouse. Should be about explicitly to, since I'm writing to every single struct. Oh, the key. Ah. Let's give that. Steve. Alex, that's it.
I feel so out of line every time that you call my name. I want to make your move, but I'm scared to say it. It's taken a while to get this far. I'm caught in the way. It's taken a lot to get this close. We're one and the same. Chasing colors after dark. In your heart, I believe in you. The way you pull me in, can't pretend we're a work of art. After dark, in your heart, I believe in you. The way you pull me in, can't pretend.
Testing. There we go. Oh, I don't know what happened with the mic there. Sorry about that. So you missed my thanks out to Destroy Computers for finding that issue. What was happening is we have it here too. So maybe we'll start. Maybe we'll switch over to some Calyx. So what would happen is in here, we were using malloc to allocate the memory and for this config entity, and as a result, malloc just kind of sets aside that space, that memory on the computer, but it doesn't. It just grabs a chunk of memory and hands it over to the running application. It doesn't do anything to that memory, like clean it up. So there could be, and this is why some of these problems are hard to find. Sometimes you can get nice fresh memory that's been zeroed out and cleared and it's all nice and ready to be used. Other times you can get like garbage from that's been written to by other programs and then no longer used by those programs, but not necessarily cleaned up or zeroed out. So what was happening sometimes, and again, this only happens sometimes based on the memory that you're handed and the alignment of the moon and stars. Sometimes you'd be handed a chunk of memory for that config entity, and it would be, let's jump to the wrong place. And so we would have a pointer to some string that's the name, just random gobbledygook, and then a list pointer that may or may not be 0. If it's 0, great. Then we catch that situation and we allocate our own list. But if we're in the case where we're given memory that hasn't been zeroed out, the program could be fooled into thinking that that's a valid pointer and try and use this as a list, and that's when you run into the crashies. Thank you, Destroy. That was a good find, and like perfect timing too, because I've pretty much hit my hard stop for the day. But we got a lot of stuff done. Let's quickly review what we did. We did some game balancing. We removed some of the random number generation in the combat. We also removed some of the excessive statistics that we have in the combat. So now combat as a player is a little bit easier to reason about, which may let you make smarter strategic decisions. Like if you're running low on health and you know that you're likely, if they hit, you're likely to take this amount of damage, it may change your decisions. We adjusted to make the monsters hit harder. We made the players hit not quite so hard. And then we also we discovered that the players actually had an unfair advantage in that they were getting an attack and defense modifier that the monsters just weren't getting. So we added a modifier for our monsters based on the current dungeon level. We make the monsters now, they are allowed to take a turn if the player picks up an item, which is kind of fair. And then, where is it? Where we can mark it off our list right now. Fix the leaderboard. Thank you to Destroy Computers for finding that little nasty memory bug. We can mark that off the list. I'll do a little bit more testing after the stream, but it seems like we nailed that one due to bad memory. And I'll also probably do a pass through just to make sure. Let's add an item to the list. Check of malloc. I'll make sure that there aren't any other situations where we may be inadvertently doing that. Yeah, I think that's good. So I'm hoping to stream again, hopefully a couple evenings this week. And like I said, I'm hoping to get on a bit of a more regular schedule with the streaming. I've been on hiatus for a bit, but I want to get back into it. And I especially now we're pretty close to finishing up the game. There's our Gareth Goldbringer. Good. All right, cool. We are very close to finishing up the game. If you look, we've got a couple items on our task list. Where is that? Bring that. Hey, Gun Games, you just missed another one? Yeah, I mean, I'm wrapping things up. So unfortunately, yes, but I was just saying I'm hoping to stream a couple times this week, evenings, and then hopefully at least get to stream one day or once per weekend for a slightly longer stream. Hopefully that will permit. So the high score board we fixed up. We can mark that off of our list. That's good. Game balancing. We can mark that off of our list. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll play some more, see what it looks like. But for now, I'm going to call it good. And so next time we will work on adding a win condition and a win screen to the game. And it will pretty much, as far as the scope of this game goes, that'll be pretty close to done. Hunk TW, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Yeah, so I mean we're real close to being done with this game. And I'm excited about that because then I've got a couple other projects in mind that I've been kicking around, and haven't really decided where I want to go after this. I like working with the sea, so we'll probably do some kind of. I'd like to do like a graphical roguelike, or maybe even take this Dark Caverns to version 2.0 and have like a graphical, some kind of tile-based engine or something like that, which would be really fun to do. So I'm going to call it a day. Thank you for watching. As I mentioned, the source code is completely available on GitHub. I will be checking in the changes we did today momentarily. I'll also be archiving this session and putting it up on YouTube. So you can check out YouTube for some of the previous streams. And if you have any questions or comments, you can hit me up on Twitter at PDCodes. Be sure to follow to get stream notified the next time I go live. Thanks everyone for joining me. Thank you again, Destroy, for helping me find that memory bug. And I hope to see everyone real soon. Thanks.